yourself ready to play and quit and go play. You're supposed to be the number 3 team in the nation, then prove it. Instead of putting that paint on, how about be a fighter in the first place? Go about your business. Let's take care of it. Let's go.
Let's go, man.
Let's go.
Wow, illegal use of the frog horn right there.
Yeah, the frog horn came in
at home games.
Came in handy. Yeah, how did that work?
All right, well, that's when you know you're good. TCU was up 31-17 at that point. Kelly, you worked the game on Versus, and the Lobos got off to a bad start.
Oh, Lobos got off to a bad start, but TCU didn't even really show up until a few minutes in the second half. But let's go ahead and go to it. We've talked about zero coverage when they blitz in our man-to-man. Well, this is called negative coverage. This is Antoine Hicks out here.
The code word is blown coverage.
You do have 11 guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 guys. So you do have enough to get out here and cover somebody. But if you're the Hicks, you want to alert your quarterback, but you don't want to send out the alarm to the defense. So a little raise of the left hand. We actually have a running play on to the right side. Andy Dalton and Antoine Hicks were the only ones that knew a pass was coming because the running play was still on. You don't have to notify anyone else. They executed it very well, but where's New Mexico in pass coverage?
I think he gave him a little jazz hands right there.
And it's kind of inconspicuous. It's like one of these things because you don't want the defense to be alerted.
Well, Ted Sundquist called this zero coverage. Bo, what did you see?
Well, yeah, it's just exactly what Kelly said. I call it negative coverage, but the point from the end zone view is if you watch the right tackle and you see him blocked down, there's definitely a run play on here. They're running the counter where they're pulling the backside guy. You see the action of the back, and you see this. Exactly right. Andy Dalton and Hicks are the only two guys, and Dalton does a nice job of getting the ball out. And sometimes in a situation like that as a quarterback, you can make the mistake because a guy's so wide open and you know what's about to happen and you can get a little excited, a little ahead of yourself. I was impressed that Dalton just sort of took the ball from center and then nonchalantly delivered it out there and got it to him on the money. But it was nice he threw it early. Otherwise, that right tackle was going to be downfield.
Well, what's interesting is the quarterback, Dalton, could have easily been hit by a couple of guys pulling, offensive lineman, the H-back. The running back didn't know a run was calling. So I'm telling you, to execute that isn't that easy, but they handled it very well.
Is that just a huge mental error from the Lobos defense?
Absolutely. I mean, and we'll see more of this. We have a couple more examples, trust me. And they didn't seem to know where they were supposed to be, and then when they were in the right place initially, they weren't in the right place when the play began, so it wasn't very good.
Well, Bo, here's a nice pass to Wayman James.
Well, yeah, and maybe they were in the right place initially at times, but mentally, I'm not sure that they were ever in the right place during this ball game. New Mexico's in quarters coverage here, so this corner ultimately has responsibility there, and there. And what TCU does here is they actually fake to James, and then they're going to turn around and throw back to James. They use the tight end as sort of a decoy to get this corner to commit over here. What the corner should do, go ahead and run it through, guys, is that he needs to stop it right there, all right? He's got nice help here in the middle. Just pass this tight end off as he's running across to your buddy so that you can get back over here and help. But a lot of times, the guy who's unaccounted for on a play-action pass is the guy you fake the ball to.
Yeah.
So give TCU some credit for a really nice play design there to throw the ball back to James after they faked the ball to him.
Well, Wayman James wasn't the only guy open on that pass play. There were he had a couple of options.
Bart Johnson, I don't want to go lie.
That was the hardest decision the quarterback had to make. Which open guy do I throw the football to?
Well, Kelly, what did you see on the Jimmy Young touchdown?
Well, it's the same thing that Bo just drew up. Once again, I believe it's quarter coverage, which means Hooks is the corner. He should be there. You have a safety that should be there. This safety should be there. And this safety should go back. What we're going to get here is outside release and go down the outside of the field, and you're going to get a flat route. Hooks, the corner here, jumps the flat route, and he believes this guy should be over the top to help. I don't believe that's the case. Go ahead and let it roll, guys. If you stop it right there, you can see the go route just went by Hooks, who's here jumping on the flat route underneath. This safety has no idea that he's supposed to be back there. In quarter coverage, he actually should be up in here looking for this guy to break, knowing that he has help backside or down the field outside. And you can see right there, blown assignment. It doesn't get any easier than that. And, for the first, it's 21-0 now, and New Mexico hasn't covered anyone yet in the secondary.
All right, they were covering grass for a little bit out there. Well, Bo, we gave you a New Mexico play to take a look at.
Oh, appreciate that, guys.
Yeah, go ahead and take this.
When I had a brief time with the Cowboys, we had a coach named Joe Brodsky, and he had a big chew in his mouth. And when he would watch film, and there was something that was just obviously a bad play, he would just not even talk and run the play back and forth. Go ahead and run this, guys, and run it back and forth just a couple times. I don't even want to talk this through. Go ahead and run it to the point where we have the mishap. It's a bobbled snap, and he would just say,
Is that self-tackleization right there?
That's all I would say is just a groan.
Yeah, just a grunt and run it back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And, okay, guys, you can go ahead and run this through now. But, you know, TCU, Kelly, I didn't think being the number 2, number 3 team in the country, they needed much help on Saturdays. And particularly not from a team that's struggling already, but they got plenty of help.
You talked about the coach that would just run the tape and grunt. We had a coach that actually told the player, our starting center, he ran it back like that about 5 times, and he said, if I was that bad, I would just quit. And he had the southern draw. So, you know, right now, obviously, we're making fun of it, but New Mexico has some issues. They have young players that just don't know what direction they're going. Hopefully, by this time next year on All 22, we're showing some better stuff out of New Mexico.
All right, let's get back to the game. Andy Dalton, he gets hurt in this, Kelly. What happened?
And this was actually about to be the big story because really, as bad as New Mexico was, TCU just kind of mailed this one in early in the game. What we're going to see right here, Dalton actually gets hurt on this play. You have Zach Roth, the right tackle, that is actually going to try to block Greer, who's the third team defensive end. And he isn't even initially interested in rushing. Stop it right there. You know, he's interested in kind of waltzing around on the line of scrimmage. And you get Roth, who's out of position and lunges. Greer just has to knock his hands away. Go ahead and let it roll now, guys. Stop it right there. Okay, TCU hasn't been interested in playing. They're about to get interested because their quarterback, their all-world quarterback, is about to get hit upside the head. Go ahead and let it go through. And what happened there, you can see the right arm was in a funny position. He was ready to deliver the ball, and he actually took the face mask right on kind of the funny bone area and lost feeling in his throwing hand until the game was about over with. So they didn't play with Andy Dalton the rest of the game, and that's why you heard the frog horn, is because Patterson had seen enough, and he said, guys, it's time to show up and act like the third team in the country.
Well, TCU goes undefeated. More than likely will play in the Rose Bowl. The other big news, TCU to the Big East starting in 2012, and that brings on an Ask the Analyst question from Peter in Los Angeles. Wasn't happy. He emailed us to say it was shocking and laughable that TCU would leave and the Frogs are in for a, quote, rude awakening, unquote. He also says it's ill-conceived, ignorant, and illogical decision, end quote. Your reaction, guys, when you heard the news?
Well, I like Peter's quote. If we're talking about football and if we're talking about, you know, what happens on the field, on the court, whatever. But this decision wasn't about that. This was a decision that was about the bank account at TCU. And trying to,
must be the money.
We had a couple different songs picked out for this particular segment, but that's the bottom line. You know, TCU has jumped conferences in the past, and here was an opportunity a few years back maybe in this conference to solidify things a bit. If you can tie in a Utah, tie in a BYU, keep TCU around, and bring on a Boise State. Wow, you know, what a conference that might have been. But you see Utah peel out, BYU peels out. These schools are chasing the money, and that's really the bottom line. They've got to fund their entire athletic department, all the Olympic sports, because from what they do in football and basketball. And the Big East gives TCU the opportunity to do that.
It's about getting that money and getting it right now.
Yeah, and so just tell us that. You know,
right.
why go on the air and tell us it's all these other things, you know? And I think it is about the money. Go ahead and tell us it's about the money. And we would be fine with that because football really, in most programs, it really drives the bus. And football funds a lot of those other programs and academic programs. And as we talked about, Gary Patterson calls football the front porch, but you have to take care of the rest of the house. But right now, this is the 5th conference that TCU has been in. They're always willing to jump ship to find the best landing place, not for the other people in the conference, but for TCU. Utah has done it. BYU has done it. TCU has done it, and that's what climate we live in right now. It's the result of what the BCS brings to the table. The BCS has not been good for college football.
It's like the Little Rascals. Remember Darla of the Little Rascals?
Yeah.
Whenever Alfalfa had the fastest car or Butch had the fastest car,
she was
with whoever had the fastest car or sang the best. But, you know, Gary Patterson says there's not much difference in travel. In fact, going east may help his team.